chill out.
There's a sandwich at my job
I
called
think that was my main fear of just kind of starting it, where it was like, wow, two white 20-somethings starting a podcast. Where the fuck have I heard that before? Oh, everywhere you look. So when we initially started, it was like, okay, this potpourri has to smell different. At least that's the way I
really love your word of the use of the word potpourri.
Yeah, but I actually talked to my mom about it, and she was like, "Well, what are you guys going to talk about?" And I'm like, "Well, it was a potpourri," and she's like, "You're talking about potpourri?" Like, and the thing, she's a little bit, she's out of touch. Love you, Mom.
And the thing is like my thinking was I didn't necessarily want it to be potpourri just because I know that that's a trap that some shows can fall into.
I'm sorry, not potpourri, but just like a hodgepodge of what interests us, which happen to be arts, humanities, etc.
I mean, because you can have and again, this is another show that kind of caught my attention. And granted, Touchdowns and Tangents does this.
I like you're not mentioning Tales from the Third Rail, which was like
the brainchild. You can cut me off. I'll never mention Tales from the Third Rail, and Penny for Your Thoughts. I want to.
That's dark. That's
part of the lineage.
It is. We don't have time to talk about that.
And I think the other common ground is books.
Yeah.
Y'all are seriously, clearly invested in the books and literature.
So I feel like that should definitely be somewhere around your niche.
I mean,
talk to the publishers.
Writing is in our DNA practically.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the irony too is that we're both writers, and yet we said
talking.
it while we were talking. Yeah, we were talking into a microphone, and that's just because that just has to do with not only the oversaturation, but it also has to do with the fact that the times are what they are. That if you're going to get your creative voice heard,
you better get it out there.
You've got to find ways that may not fit your exact style. And that was something that we realized we could probably do a little bit better in terms of doing radio, but also honing in on it and not, making sure, and this is not a slight against you guys or another show that kind of inspired us, Chapo Trap House, but also making our shows a little bit kind of concise within a certain time frame. Just because I know that is definitely a factor when it comes to people listening to shows and allotting as much time as they can to play an episode.
How long are the episodes, though? Because are we not doing 20-minute episodes?
That's kind of overrated.
We're not.
Well,
time limit is kind of overrated because if you have the 4 hours, people will listen to it.
Yeah.
Granted, but also you don't want to. I could understand if you have a time limit set and it tends to be longer if it takes longer to make, and let's say you're doing it bi-weekly or hell once a month, where it's like you want that long content to tide you over for the next episode that's also going to be long, right? And I totally agree. Time limits are definitely overrated. I've definitely been on my fair share of podcasts and radio where it's, somewhere 20 minutes, somewhere 12 minutes. The arbitrary nature of it is just subjective to the host. And that's fine as long as they get that concise opinion out. I think with us, though, because we also just have a love of public speaking, it can just kind of go on. And that's not a slight against us. We just really get invested in what we're talking about, naturally. So...
And especially with you, because we've gone hours on end.
Oh,
just
first day we met.
Yeah.
He gave you the whole Beatles spiel?
Not the Beatles spiel. Oh, I don't even want to know about that.
Oh, that's a whole episode. Honestly, podcasts are really just conversations, and you just decide that episode what that conversation is.
Right.
No, and the other thing as well is
podcasts are that successful podcasts are not.
Right. Well, and again, that's
successful
the thing is that
podcasts.
Should I go?
Our products produced by teams of 10 people where everything.
We don't
is
sell merch,
strategic.
so it's different. We're not there yet.
Hey, not yet. Glass half full.
But yeah, we
see what I deal with. Glass half empty.
I kind of looked at kind of the trajectory that I was going with, who I was listening to, where I kind of came from with Tales from the Third Rail, with being on this show, listening to other shows again I mentioned Chapo. Talk of Santa Clarita has been a podcast that I want to give a shout out to Stephen Daniels. Without him, I wouldn't have been able to learn kind of the crazy environment that is the place that I grew up in. And I know that he's been doing an amazing job on his show. But yeah, it's kind of a lot of that is carried on over into thinking, well, what can I do in return? And I think on top of both of us having great conversations with each other, we also want to make sure that these are conversations that are great for people to hear, and it's not just us enjoying our own conversations. If I, say we do an episode and I listen to it and I'm kind of we we could do a bit better. Like we will go the extra route and do another recording. And we may even change the topic if necessary.
That's hard.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Really hard.
No,
it's true.
Sometimes you have to just put bad tape out there to just realize.
Yeah. The beauty.
This
though,
is what we can't do.
I'm not proud of my first book, but I mean, hell, I won't take it off of.
But I mean,
my distributors.
That's part. That's
still
part
makes
of
me money.
That's part of like a duo. Is like you don't know what the other one is going to say. When you know what the other one is going to say, it completely.
Well, I know you hate the word.
Bad shooting nights.
I know you hate the word, but you do have to find that chemistry, synergy, whatever you want to call it, because I know we've had our conversations in the past, and I know they've gone well. But does that necessarily translate well on on audio? And for the most part, well, I thought it did. And I hope that you feel the same.
Because really, with the first episode, we were kind of making clear kind of who we were.
Exactly.
We kind of did a shortened version of what we plan to do episode by episode with one topic.
I don't think any pilot is really nationally recognized as, wow, this was great. They're not supposed to be. They're just supposed to be an introduction. Now, I'm not saying that's... I'm not kicking us while we're down.
The Topo guys weren't even in the same room for their first episode, and now they're all doing it kind of the same way we're talking. So.
You kind of just got to look at it as you're always defining who you are every episode.
And it's always going to evolve.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not concerned.
That's the plan. That's the heart of the show, is just to move forward and evolve. So, but we got our social media set up as well. We already gave you guys and to follow.
I'm happy for you guys,
but keep thinking about who your audience is.
If you want to,
we're just because we're younger than you doesn't mean
no. Just hear me out. I'm happy for you. Okay. Your intentions are great, but if you're 170 episodes deep and you haven't got a single dollar and you're still putting hours into it, don't be surprised. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Because you could have saved that for off air, but okay, I hear you.
No, but I'm just saying because, like, when, like, you can, and I've talked about that here plenty of times. Like, you can make your show a variety show of, like, whatever you bring to it, which is essentially what this show is. But at the same time, then the audience doesn't know what to expect. So then they don't always tune in every single week. So if you can create a consistency, a baseline that makes it easier for people to want to appointment, view, and listen to you every single day.
Right.
So like the way that works, and that's pretty much how this podcast has grown, is it's really just going to grow as you guys grow.
Right.
So it's really going to only grow as much as you guys put yourself out there, as much as your platforms as individuals, as much as you guys get out and knock on doors and tell people. So, which is hard, but I mean, obviously it's the way we've gone. We're still here, so it's possible. It's just hard. Yeah. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
And also, because I harken back to the whole Senior Bowl situation. I think about, like, that's honestly the biggest thing I've ever covered. But I'm like, that's the beginning of what I need to do next. It's not like the end all be all. You're going to have to just keep putting yourself. Hell, y'all might have to go to, like, some weird ass events. And
we're like way over.
I mean,
we really are.
That's kind of what I said earlier, but just remember, like, we've also done international travel solo, so we're good on
there you go.
That front. You might need Pete with you.
Wait, that doesn't even hurt my feelings.
Wait, what did you say this week about TSA? I was fucking rolling, bro. What did you say?
I got Me Too'd by TSA.
What did he say?
I got Me Too'd by TSA.
Oh, no, he was having an issue with his fucking phone, and he was like, what, did fucking TSA update your phone too?
Oh, yeah.
I was fucking rolling, bro.
That shit killed me. I was like, I'm going to beat Mancini's ass when I see him. But I'm going to shake his hand like that was funny.
I was literally laughing loud as fuck in my office when I read that.
I heard it in the text that he responded back. I was like, Pete's cackling right now. Like, and I'm upset about it.
But on that note, this is Touchdowns and Tangents.
We'll get to all of the rest of our football stuff next week.
Shout out to Mars on Earth. Officially.
Wow, you didn't even get the name right.
Was Earth
Mars
on
Life.
Mars on Life.
Mars on Life.
Damn, bro.
You're only one episode deep. Holy fuck.
Yeah,
my bad.
You just killed we're carrying ourselves like we're the next Joe Rogan.
I mean, the first Star Wars teaser didn't say Thumb Wars, but
damn.
Hey, man, that's the confidence you have to have. We came out saying we body the sports competition. Our archives never live. And that's just the attitude that you have to have. Like,
he really was on like some fuck the competition. Like when we came out, like, he had some internal hatred.
You have to.
No, us were acknowledging the competition and just being, silently modest about it. And eventually, what happens is that people lose interest not only in listening but also in making.
Yeah, for sure.
So the whole thing is that if you can make that push to the finish of being there when no one else is, I mean, shit.
I don't know.
You can go to the moon. Like if you can be that voice when no one else wants to be that voice.
So maybe that's your tagline.
What?
If you can keep if you can keep going, you can make it to Mars.
With a potpourri that you end up taking to Mars, whatever.
Okay, you didn't have to loop in potpourri. That was just.
I want him to include potpourri somewhere, and I don't know how.
I mean, the first three letters are pot. So.
Okay, so it's life on Mars. Mars on life.
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 We're all sober, by the way.
Mars on life.
I think.
I'm
Shout
sober.
out to you guys.
He has brain damage.
I'm happy for you.
Thank you.
Especially you, Mancini. You just became my friend. So now I'm happy to you too. But I'm happy for both you guys. I wish you guys luck. It's gonna be hard, but don't quit. That's all I can say.
The average podcast lasts what, 12, 18 episodes?
No, they 12? I think they said 17.
17.
Yeah.
17.
Then it just kind of falls off.
Yeah, so
not us though.
Yeah, but if you could, I would just plot out those first 20 episodes. Yeah, if you could. Just
right now we got
paper.
We got at least the first 10 kind of mapped out, and we're gonna kind of
just start booking those people. Start DMing them, everything, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you can. Just start DMing them. Just be like, hey, we're doing this. And see what happens. Yeah. That's all you can do. But on that note, this is Touchdowns and Tangents. Shout out to the Good News radio station. Shout out to FBC Radio. Are we going to rant? Do you want to rant? Is there something you want to rant about?
Really only one thing. Mel Tucker, former Colorado Buffaloes head coach. A couple days before National Signing Day, swore up and down, he tweeted out that he was going to stay in Colorado. He was initially offered by Michigan State the head coaching job. He first said no. Then they pretty much brought him back with like offer he couldn't refuse. They doubled his salary and gave him a bunch of other stuff. And he immediately took the job, but was like, deuces, I'm out. After all, he got all the recruits in. And I tweeted out, I was like, man, those poor recruits who can't get out of their letter of intent because they signed to a school and the head coach left them like 3 days ago. So I'm not ever going to hate on another man's money because you shouldn't. Like, he got more money. He's in Michigan State. He'll clean up that program the way he cleaned up Colorado and gave them a whole talent pool. You can't hate the man for that. But it just goes to show these athletes get screwed every time. Because if one of these kids wants to get out of their letter of intent, they'll be treated like a criminal and have to lose a year of eligibility and sit out. And it's insane. And also, I don't know what the hell is it with the transfer portal, but Stanford just keep losing people to the transfer portal.
But
Matthew Cherry, former Beaver, he was in the NFL in like 2007. He won Best Animated Short at the Oscars for his cartoon short. It was called Hair Love. About like the hair.
Oh, I met that guy. He was at NABJ.
Damn, that's fire.
He was at an NABJ panel.
Yeah, he won an Oscar.
It's about being a dad and doing your daughter's hair, right?
Yeah, and also like dealing with like black hair and
it was about being a dad, but it was about dealing with black hair, but from a dad.
But, so definitely
like a dad.
And it's like the fact that him and Kobe both were nominated for an Oscar, and he shared the tweet. Like Kobe bigged him up for being nominated for an Oscar previously, and now he wins an Oscar. And he said like this win was for Kobe, and it's just really it's really dope to see that dude got that Oscar. And the young man who was pretty much banned from his high school graduation because he has locks, and they changed the rule like mid-year, and he was either shave his head or don't go to graduation. They brought him to the Oscars. That was really dope. So yeah, that's all I got.
So back to me. I also wanted to shout out. this upcoming QB class because I think it's going to be this offseason is really unprecedented in terms of the amount of quarterbacks that are going to be available, both in the draft and in free agency. And it's something that I've been talking about for a while.